All right, it is Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, and we're back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Here in New York City, we're looking at, what are we looking at today? We're looking at about 89 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know the Celsius conversion offhand, but I was thinking maybe we could check out other places. In Auckland, New Zealand, their temperatures right now are 45 degrees. Well, it's 45 degrees right now in the morning here, but their highs are around 57 Fahrenheit. And what is that? About 10 degrees, I want to say, Celsius. Let's see, 45 degrees is 7 degrees Celsius. I've never been good at this conversion. It's never worked as long as I've lived abroad. It's the one conversion that's been very hard. So it's good to see that, not everyone's got the same temperatures. People experiencing different seasons. And we're experiencing quite a season here. So wherever you are today and whatever you're going through, let's just take a moment and reflect. I've been thinking about tradition a lot. And the role of tradition, and we like traditions, right? I mean, in the U.S., Thanksgiving traditions, turkey and the meal and getting everyone together, whatever religious traditions and holidays that are meaningful for you, those are really, really important. At the same time, tradition can be a way to not grow. And insofar as a tradition is something that we do kind of quote unquote religiously without thinking, it can mean that we're sort of in an atrophy state. And so there's this tension between the wonderful feeling and experience that we get from our traditions, but also how they limit us and keep us in a box. And I'm thinking about what we're going through right now, and I'm thinking about the traditions and the institutions and the norms and so many things that we have grown to count on for many of us as Americans, related to our identity. And as those things are torn down or disrupted, it's feeding a deep unease. It feels insecure, or is it unsecure? It doesn't feel very secure. And we talked about uncertainty yesterday. But I wanted to, share something about growth being kind of more important than security, because I think right now what I'm really experiencing is, first of all, being secure is there's always sort of a false narrative to it. We're never as secure as we think we are. We talk about crime statistics and whether you feel safe or not. And so often the feeling is totally disconnected from the statistics. It's just a general sense. And so sometimes we make policy and make decisions based on a feeling rather than on data. So what I'm leaning into these days is, of course, I want to pay attention to data and observe as much as I can, try and make sense of the world and make choices based on that. At the same time, in terms of prioritizing, when things are disruptive even more than normal, when you can't count on certain things being there, or people being there, or clients that you once served, or whatever it is for you, maybe you've had coworkers let go, or you yourself are in fear of that. It's very disruptive, and in our culture, we've had a lot of messages in the self-help industry, for example, that talk about resilience and grit as the whole game. It's always just no matter what, you're kind of like Rocky, you get up and keep fighting no matter what. And you can do that to a point, but in the real world, if a boxer gets hit too many times, they have a concussion and maybe they die. In fact, there's 2 boxers recently, Japanese boxers, who died after their matches. So, resilience is not the whole game. And Tasha talks about this in Shatterproof that I mentioned yesterday. that grit is not the whole game. Even the grit author now is coming out and saying, well, yes, grit is important, but, we also need to be learning and growing. We need to be changing. And that's what Shatterproof is about. That's what, I've been experiencing. I told Tasha, I said, when she put this book out, I said, I've been experiencing this exact kind of process of differentiating between the limits of resilience and the potential of growing and changing through mass disruption. And that really is our challenge. And for me, it's about connection with other people, because I don't see myself as existing in and of myself, just divorced from other people. I see my existence, the value of my existence and my existence itself, as being inextricably linked to other people, most notably the people who made me, and now the people I connect with. And so there's someone I've connected with. This may be a bit of an abrupt segue, but I want to share. I have a friend in New York City. His name is Samir, and he's incredible. He's originally from Yugoslavia, Croatia, but he was born in Yugoslavia, and he watched Yugoslavia break apart. He watched the fascism, the authoritarianism take over there. And he has a lot of wisdom. He's also an executive coach and an author. He calls himself a wayfinder. I find him to be an amazing soul and a human being that has given me great insights. And his latest post on his Substack, which he calls the New Glossary. Check it out, the New Glossary. It's worth reading, from yesterday. I'm just going to read it to you, at least most of the post. It won't take that long, but I think this is worth it. It's titled Apathy or Delight. In a world that keeps urging us to disconnect, we've forgotten something. We haven't lost our capacity to care. We've only lost our sense of what's worth caring about. On my morning dog walk in the city park, I come across my friend Toby, a respected and beloved children's soccer coach from Ghana, who is also a U.S. citizen living in New York City with his family. Visibly shaken this early morning as the sun came up, he said that after several decades, he is returning to Ghana. Why? Because it is safer than the U.S., he says. Through the all-at-once angry, sad, and fearful tears, he asks, why are Americans doing this, wanting this, destroying what takes decades or centuries to build? Don't they know history, world, life? You have your own story from your own context, perhaps more violent or vile, and layers of news that are too much. Lately, I keep hearing phrases that sound harmless, but feel like tiny surrenders. It is what it is. Nothing matters. Protect your peace. Sometimes they're wise, but more often they're just polite ways of saying, I'm checking out. It's okay not to give a damn. In a world that feels out of control, apathy can be a shelter. You don't have to feel all of the difficult feelings. The wellness industrial complex has now shifted a call for self-care into a call for strategic disconnection. Here's the truth I keep circling back to. We don't have to feel everything. We also don't have to feel nothing. We can choose carefully what gets our emotional energy and accept that choice as enough. We haven't lost the capacity to care. We've only forgotten how to decide what's worth caring about. And I believe deeply that believing in human goodness is worth that investment. I believe that delight in the truth about humanity and life is the essential and most revolutionary investment an ordinary mystic can make today. As Jack Gilbert once wrote in his liberating poem about what to do in times like these, we must risk delight. We must risk delight. And that really rung true for me. We've got to take a risk to delight. And I would say to delight in our own adventure, in our own growth, in our, as difficult and as painful as it may be, we don't have a choice. because the world that we thought we knew isn't. And in some ways never was. And I guess that's my point. It's a false sense of security that we can really count on things to be the way we think they are. Number one, they're always changing, as are we. But are we changing fast enough and in the right ways that will translate into our own strengthening and growth? Because if we're not, then the gap between who we need to be to meet the moment and who we really are gets wide, and the pain gets too great to bear, and it'll break some people. So you're right where you're supposed to be. And I would just say the challenge of today is to connect with people who are meaningful to you. I'm going to have coffee with Samir later today and talk about this article. And I've been delighting in tapping into the wisdom and the souls of other people as I expand myself, as I seek to grow through this period to whatever it is next. Because there's no running. You know, we hear about the brain's response to threats, fight or flight. But what we don't talk about as much is the reality is that it's more often than not fight or freeze, that we sort of stop. And it's okay to stop from time to time. And Lord knows with this podcast, I stopped for way too long. And I've stopped too many times. And that status quo became unbearable for me because it's time to connect and to grow, both of those things. For me, podcasting is a piece of that. What is it for you? What is it for you to connect more deeply with yourself and with others and to grow in a meaningful way? What status quo, what tradition might you need to let go of in order to move forward in that path? That's the question for today. I hope it's helpful to you, and I hope you have a fantastic day. And we'll be back tomorrow. That's all I got for now. Be good to yourself and others. See you soon.